most of my mistakes these days are not from time per se. It's mostly just foggy brain from
Say,
From not
do you
sleeping?
still have a concept of time right now?
yes, yeah, more so now than 2 weeks ago, for sure. But whenever I'm like doing something, I'm like, it really hasn't been that long since I haven't done, something. It's more just my brain's exhausted and like, all right, I gotta figure out how to get through it.
Ugh, sounds brutal. When was she born? Oh, was it Christmas Eve?
No, 21st.
21st.
Yep, few days before. The only days we were home for a 2 week stretch were Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Wow.
Otherwise, we were in the hospital for
Holy fuck.
basically 2 weeks
Were you
there.
sleeping in the hospital too?
hmm
Holy shit.
I mean, trying to sleep, but
Yeah, struggling.
I mean, between not it just being uncomfortable in general. Like, I mean, the first bed was a little bit more comfortable than the second one. I remember when we went back to the hospital and um the nurse brought us in and she's like, sorry, you gotta sleep on that, it's like cardboard, and she was not kidding. So it's that, but it's also like, whether it was the first time through when Arya was the patient or the second time through when Toddy was the patient, like the nurses are in every hour, or
Yeah.
something beeping every 15 minutes, and things like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just hard to sleep anyway, because they're checking up on you, and that's great. Obviously, you want the care and make sure you're good, but um it was a long couple weeks, so we're thrilled so far. No trips to the hospital in 2023. that's
There we
that's the
go.
goal.
Excellent.
Stay healthy, stay home, and just enjoy everything. But
Yeah.
this is the first night. My mom just left today, this morning. She's been here since the 20th, when the induction started for Aria, and 20th of December. And then my dad came a couple times, and he was working, but my mom was just actually off most of the time. She had to take a few days off that first week, but she had this time off because they go to school all year at the school she's a teacher aide for now, and this just happened to be one of their breaks, so it worked out from a timing perspective really well. But it's the first night where it's just the four of us in the house: me, Toddy, Arya, and of course Stella.
Wow. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Been a crazy few weeks. My God.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to getting back into some normalcy. I mean, there's still a lot of recovering, and sleep to make up, and parenthood never ends. But we also got a new kitchen put in over the past week: new countertops, new backsplash. That was a project that just got delayed because of supply and demand things and whatnot, and of course it happened right after everything. So but the kitchen looks really nice. I'll send you guys a picture.
Did
It
you
should
happen
be
to did you happen to paint the kitchen?
not in that
Damn
area.
it.
No, it's just more, it was more just concentrated into like the area where the countertops are and the cabinets and all that type of stuff. I mean, we'll eventually do some painting and stuff, but right now the girls get everything so messy that it's just not worth it.
Ethan, if you're perplexed, it's I was asking about the area of wall where I spilled PBR with coffee
Oh.
all over Colin's wall
Okay.
because I knocked it. I was trying to write on their whiteboard, which was not secure, and I
Still
knocked the
is not.
whiteboard off the wall as I was writing with my left hand.
Yeah.
And in my right hand was my drink, and I just went to pin it against the wall and just splashed coffee all over the wall. This was within like 25 minutes of being in Colin and Christine's brand new house for the first time. And Christine just comes downstairs to see me with a paper towel wiping off her walls. Oh, I still feel dumb about that.
Amazing.
I think it brings some character to.
I mean,
to
at least I
the
didn't like puke at your house, but
house. Not yet. It's actually
oh well,
surprising.
wait till you see what I have. If not assuming there's a Memorial Day soiree, but if there is, wait till you see what I have to bring.
Oh, I mean, there definitely is.
I already have something.
Nice. Matt planning ahead. See, this is why Matt and I get along very well, because we are the planners. We take care of business. Ethan just shows up and rides our what is it, coattails? Is that the
Yeah,
phrase?
that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys do all the planning, but you still ride on my coattails because I am just that interesting and charismatic. So,
I was talking, I don't know why this made me think of this, but I was talking to a coach that I work with quite a bit. And we were just talking about like her program and their culture and everything, and we were talking about Ted Lasso popped up, and then she's like, yeah, actually Ted Lasso and the Last Dance documentaries are like two of the biggest things that I want all the girls in my program, like who come through, to like watch those and like really be in line with those, because like at least the way Michael Jordan is portrayed in The Last Dance, like his worth ethic and everything. And she said something along the lines like, I know you don't like it. And I was like, whoa. I like The Last Dance, but Matt is the one who hates it. So hates it and never saw it.
I didn't say I hate it. I say that I don't believe it's going to be an accurate portrayal.
yeah.
So kudos to the way you phrased that, because you said the way he's portrayed, and I'm not questioning Michael Jordan's work ethic. That guy was a maniac.
True.
Yeah, but any documentary where it everything needs to be approved, right, at the end by the person it's about.
But you guys still love the documentary about mushrooms, and nobody asked the mushrooms if the information was accurate.
That's true. Yeah, when are we gonna give the mushrooms their fair say in this democracy? Gosh, unbelievable.
Maybe they should ask what's his name, Ron Santos, the
Is it George Santos?
George, I don't know.
With all the fake shit on his resume or whatever? Yeah. Oh my God. What a fucking world. Ridiculous.
So good. Well, boys, are you drinking tonight?
You know it.
I just have some old wine that needs to get drunk.
Ooh.
So yeah, I mean, I have some beers in the fridge. There's a brewery, shout out to Connecticut Valley Brewery, which is in South Windsor, Connecticut. And it's like right on the main drag near my parents' house, like 5 minutes from my parents' house. It's really nice. Jeremy, shout out to brother Jeremy, thinks it's like by far the best thing in central Connecticut now, pretty much. But it's really nice. They have a great setup, and they share a building with a cafe. And we've gone a couple times now, and the food is solid, like the breakfast food and stuff at the cafe. And the coffees are pretty good. And the beers that I've had are pretty solid too, but the overall hang is just really nice. They've done a great job with the setup. Like, it's super cool. Anyways, we had tried, Jeremy had got a couple of their pineapple sours that we tried. And I really enjoyed those. And so
I think I saw you log that on
yeah.
tab.
Yeah, and so before we left town, actually, I think I had another one. I had a peach one the other night. I got to log that one. So before we left, they have a bunch of them. So I have a bunch of different sours of theirs in the fridge, that different flavors to try. But I just wasn't really feeling fruity sour tonight.
All of their beer, is all their artwork plain themed?
That is definitely the theme. The sours aren't. They're just like fruit sour. Although maybe the art, I'd have to look at the can. There might still be something. But yeah, if you go like in person, there's like these planes hanging from the ceilings, like model planes and stuff. Yeah, it's a big aviation theme.
Yeah, they had occasionally a can or two would make it out to the beer store I'd frequent in Cincinnati. So.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm
Yeah.
surprised. That's interesting that they distribute all the way out there.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're particularly big
yet.
yet.
It was very sporadic.
Right. But it's a super cool place. Yeah.
I had to go to this beer store. It was called the Root Cellar, so I had to go.
Of course.
And it was like a messy, unalphabetized record store. Like it was just beer everywhere and like no real organization. You just were treasure hunting, and it was wonderful.
Where was that?
Nice.
In Cincinnati.
Oh, that was
Cool.
in Cincy. Yeah. What was Ethan? What was the point of telling the beer story? Sorry again. I'm
Because I'm having wine that has been open for several days and needs to get drunk. And you said boo, so I was just defending myself by saying I do have beer here.
got it.
This wine needs to get drunk, and I wasn't in the mood for a fruity sour.
And not everyone gets lucky and can get
Is that Focal Banger?
yeah, 8-day-old Focal Banger.
Oh, fucking A.
8-day-old. Wow.
Actually, we had some Focal Banger over Christmas. Jeremy brought some. It was probably about similarly fresh. I didn't look at the dates, but God, Focal Banger is fucking good.
Nice.
Colin?
Getting my beer out to show you. I'm at Root. Hop Creep.
Okay.
Tired hands.
Number one, because you just had a baby, and number two, since it's a triple, that's an okay one if it's a little older.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
I don't think it's like super old though.
No.
speaking real quick of triples, that reminded me. So the most recent batch that Matt sent to me, he sent me a few beers like a month or two ago. And Matt, I don't know if you already saw it on Untapped, but one of the beers you sent to me was triple Mylar Daydream.
Yeah.
From Other Half, 11.3% triple. Holy fuck. But oh my God, it was good.
Yeah.
It was amazing. That was like as good of a beer as I've had from Other Half, I think. It was so fucking good. Thank you for that.
That's one of my anything in the Daydream series I really, really like. That was the hybrid between their Mylar bag series as well.
And the Mylar bags are good. I've had those, yeah.
And then Colin, I saw that you had the Orange Dreamsicle Shake. How'd that?
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah,
So
I think that was the first one I had post Aria.
I don't like that brewery, but I made an exception. I was the local alumni chapter had an event there, so I saw it and I was like, well, I guess I have to get this for Colin.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I'm pretty sure I gave it a 5 on Untapped.
And Matt, we also enjoyed the sour you sent. You sent us. Was it from Jackie O's, that sour, the ubiquitous?
Yeah, so that was the watermelon hibiscus sour.
Yeah, and honestly, like you couldn't taste very much watermelon. There was just like a hint of it as the aftertaste, but it was good. It was nice.
Yeah, when I was out in Ohio at the end of October, I tried it out there. I already had a bottle at home, and I tried it out there, and wow, this is actually really good. Like it wasn't too sour. It was, it wasn't like lip smacking, difficult to drink. But yeah, I wanted to throw that in there, and then hopefully Toddy's had a chance to have a glass of wine. Not yet. Damn.
No.
Okay.
Nah,
Well,
she's getting close to feeling comfortable, ready, with it all. But
well, I know it wasn't anything special, but I figured I would sent a little tiny box of wine.
Yeah. Nah, it's all good. She'll get to it eventually.
But yeah, I've been trying to one of my goals to start the season is trying to buy as little beer as possible. And I've been going through and having a beer out of the cellar most every night. Those 12-ounce Jackie O stouts are nice and good to sip while eating dinner, and then you can finish it, or while making dinner, and then you can finish it off when you eat dinner. So that's been my goal these past couple weeks, just to try and get through the giant backlog in the basement.
Yep, that's how we are with desserts right now. It's ridiculous.
That's a good problem to have.
I guess so. I mean, I'm eating them every day, so it's
okay. What was your dessert of the day today?
I had one of your tasty cakes, and I had two Christmas cookies that were in the freezer. Yeah,
nice.
Not bad.
Yep, I think I got one tasty cake left.
I almost bought you some more yesterday, and I was like, I got to stop doing. I can't keep sending them. But there was one grocery store that still had them on the shelf, and I was like, maybe
You're gonna
they had an expiration date in April, and I was like, they're probably fine. But I've already sent you expired tasty cakes, so.
And they were fine. I wouldn't even have known if you didn't say anything. So yeah, they were good. I want you to have in your basement a small second. You know how like they used to talk about like if the world ended, the Twinkies would be the only thing that survives. Like those chocolate stuffed chocolate tasty cakes. That's what I want.
Just a small stockpile.
Yeah.
So I do store them when I buy them for you. I store them in the basement by the beer.
Nice.
To try and keep if they were upstairs in the pantry, they wouldn't last.
Fair enough. They are delicious. So I wouldn't be mad at all if you just bought them for yourself, Matt.
So we had a hot stove these past couple weeks.
It's been fun.
It's been something.
I feel like you've got a lot in your mind, Colin. I think you should launch into things.
Well, first off, I just want to say I'm watching Starlin Castro in what I believe is the Dominican League right now.
Oh.
And man, what a throwback that is. Not even that long ago, but it seems like it's ages ago, that 2017 team.
Is that what it was? I was like, what year was that? Okay.
Yeah, then we traded him
for G.
For G, right? Yeah. Part of it.
Not
straight up.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, some Dominican game I have on. Anyway, yeah, what a interesting. I don't know what's the right word for this whole Carlos Correa thing. That has just finally come to an end today. So I guess we picked a good day to record. Carlos Correa is officially still a Minnesota Twin after agreeing to monster deals both with the San Francisco Giants and then the New York Mets. I would love to talk about what you guys want to talk about, but I'll say from my end, and I wrote this in my Substack yesterday because that is like one thing that I do to like feel normal these days. And I had a lot of thoughts on it. Is I don't, if I was a Mets fan, I would be really, really fucking upset about this. Like the Giants, you know, that's one thing. But the Mets and Cohen, you know, going about talking how he's going to spend all this money and money's not, it doesn't matter and blah, blah, blah and everything. And I'm like, I get it. There's probably some really significant worry that these two clubs had, the Mets and the Giants had with this physical, but someone who's worth $16 billion, just take a chance on the guy. What does that $300 million mean to you? Like Carlos Correa could be a player that takes them over the top, as Steve Cohen said.
Yeah.
And instead, he got hung up, or his front office got hung up, or whoever it was, and they backed away. And I think they thought they were still going to get it done, but Correa was like, you know, fuck it. I'm going back to the Twins, you know, somewhere where they actually want me, I guess, you know, and everything. And it's just, I wrote my Substack, like when Cohen swooped in, I actually liked him. I think that's good for baseball. I think like Cohen's whole idealism, like the Steinbrenner idealism to spend money and to not try to profit all that money is good for baseball. But the fact that, you know, George, love him or hate him, and most of the people who listen to this don't even know who he is anymore because he's been gone that long at this point. When George went big, he went through with it. It didn't matter if it was a disaster. He would pay every last penny. He would go through with it. He never backed away from anything. And somewhere Cohen got cold feet. And I was like, just when I was like slightly beginning to like him as a baseball owner, he just reminded me that he's a fucking fraud and a liar and a piece of shit billionaire that I could care less about. But at the same time, I again, if I was a Mets fan, I would be furious about this because there should be no, you're basically trying to predict somebody's going to get injured and not be able to live up to their 12-year contract, which like anyone can predict somebody's going to get injured over the course of a 12-year contract. Like I just logically it doesn't make sense to me when you have all of that money and you laud it and you say that you don't care about it, and then you don't just say, well, fuck it anyway, we're gonna sign you, because that's what Cohen should have done in my opinion. But I think I don't know. It's weird. I don't really like Carlos Correa. Obviously, he's one of the members of the 2017 cheating Astros.
And he was a loudmouth about it too, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, he was pretty defiant.
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty vocal about it. And he's good, but I mean, I don't know that he's never as good as like A-Rod was or Cal Ripken Jr. was.
Well, A-Rod and Ripken, that's a really high bar. I mean, when Correa is on, he's one of the best players in the game. I think we should give him some. He's like a 7-WAR guy when he's having his best years.
Yeah.
So I'll say this though, I don't blame Cohen. Right? He didn't become a billionaire by making bad investments.
Oh my God, it's not a bad investment.
Listen to this though. So you like comparing it to Steinbrenner, right? So let's do some quick math, right? So Correa's contract was a 12-year contract with
12 years, 330, 315, something like that.
So that same contract, if you go backwards and by inflation, would be a 12-year, $138 million contract in 1990. Guess who the highest paid annual person? So over 10 million a year, like 11 million a year in $1990. Guess what the highest average salary was back then?
Was it Winfield's?
No, it was Robin Yount at $3.2 million.
Annual salary?
Annual.
Yeah.
So Steinbrenner didn't make investments like this. That would have been more than 3 times the next bigger, and then like imagine if Correa got signed for $120 million a year. That's the scale that we're looking at a year that this would have been back then. So you can say Steinbrenner went big when he went big, but he didn't go that big.
Yeah.
It was a different game. It was a different economics back then.
Yes. And that part is totally true, which I think feeds into my argument even more, in the sense that Steve Cohen isn't making his profit off the New York Mets.
No.
Steve Cohen's money comes from everything else that he does. He just happens to be an owner of a baseball team who's a super fan. If he sold the Mets today, he would still make a profit over what he bought them for.
But that doesn't mean he can just light money on fire.
You're saying light money on fire. I'm saying I'm agreeing with Ethan, saying this is a 7-WAR player when healthy.
Yeah.
Fucking take that chance.
Again, when healthy. When has he played a full season?
Pretty much every year, I think.
No, he's oft injured.
But he's never been injured for that specific injury.
But he's often so it's something else, not only the known ankle injury.
That's
something else could get him.
Okay, that's a point for you. Yes.
Am I freezing every time I talk?
No.
Okay.
You were on mute though.
Yeah, because I was eating. I have food in my mouth. But hold on. I looked this up specifically for this point. Last 2 years, 21 and 22, he played 136 and 148 games. For 2020's baseball, that's really solid.
What did he play in the COVID year?
The COVID year, I think, was like 57 games or something. Now, he was hurt in 2019. 2019, he missed a lot of time. And he missed a decent amount of time in 18 or 17 or both. It was his rookie year, he played a lot. So early on, he did have a few years where he missed a decent bit. The last 2 years, he's been relatively durable, I would say. So
kind of reminds me of a contract that the New York Yankees just gave to another monster player, Aaron Judge.
And he's going to break down. But the Yankees aren't paying him 3 times the next closest guy in the league. That's still, to them, is a smart investment. And the other thing that people, I think, didn't take into account here is the reason they wanted to restructure the contract is because, and the reason that one of the big reasons San Francisco said no, and one of the big reasons that the Mets said no, is all of these teams take out insurance policies on their players.
Right.
so that if they go on the IL, excuse me, they can recover a portion of the salary that they're paying the guys for no production in the field.
Right. Which is what the
Correa, with
Yankees
his
tried to do
injury
with
and the
Ellsbury.
contract that he was agreeing upon, was not insurable. So whoever the Giants went to and the Mets went to wouldn't give them insurance on his contract with that doctor's report and that injury. And I think that's, again, the reason the Twins structured their deal the way it was. And he caught now, and Correa is down $80 million now.
Yeah.
I mean, from his original offer, it's shorter years too, but I mean, just in total value of the contract.
Right. I mean, there's some back end stuff that I think can, if he gets if those options vest, I think can make up some of that difference. But yeah.
Well, no. So the total value of the options vest is $270 million over 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Compared to the $350 over 13.
Yeah.
So he lost a significant portion of his contract too.
Yeah.
The approach I took, I watched some Mets fans rationalize the decisions today and try and pat themselves in the back. And a lot of the talk I saw on the internet for the Mets was that Correa was not part of their strategy, that they want to emulate the Dodgers. And right now they want to sign veterans to short-term deals while they wait for their hot prospects to come through the minors. And I don't know, to me, that sounded like a bit of a stretch. If you can get a guy who puts you over the edge and gets to the championship, you do that.
Yep. Those are Mets fans just trying to rationalize with a very irrational decision. It's just those points are valid, Matt. Like, I'm not saying they're not, but at the end of the day, if the three of us were diehard Mets fans, like we were Yankee fans, and this happened, there's no way that we would be happy with it. No way.
I don't know. I mean, I told you, I expressed my reservations with you guys over the Judge contract. We had to do it, but I think we're not going to get the value of that contract.
But reservations are different than like just feeling. I one of the things I found interesting, or what I saw Mets fans trying to rationalize that at least Cohen like went for it, whereas like the Wilpons would have never done this. And I'm like, again, I don't see the logic in that. Like, go for it and get it done. Steve Cohen, super Mets fan, wants to win a championship, has $16 billion. Like, that's it would just not, it doesn't sit well with me in general. And it would be, I think, exacerbated if I was a Mets fan.
Now the Wilpons, though. So 2 years after that $3.2 million Robin Yount contract in 1990 comes Bobby Bonilla with a $6.1 million contract in 1992.
Was that Wilpon who signed him?
I don't know if that was him then, but I don't know if it was Wilpons who signed him or if it was just the Wilpons who converted it to Bobby Bonilla Day.
Right.
But so it still is out there, right? It still exists, like that going for it was going on in the early 90s. It just was a terrible choice.
Yeah, but anyway, Matt, your points about the economic situations are valid. And back in the 90s, there was a lot more instability, especially the early 90s. There was a lot more instability in baseball. There's not that instability anymore. I listened just today. I listened to the latest episode of the podcast, friend of the podcast, Joe Posnanski. They were talking about this before, this all happened, because this was recorded like roughly 5 days ago, it seems like, or whatever. And, they were talking about, again, how none of these owners in baseball, maybe the Steinbrenners are the closest thing, where like it's a family business. It's like a mom and pop, type business. They all make their money on other things. Mm. And at the same time, they buy the team for millions of dollars. Like they were talking about the Henry family, because there's rumors about them selling the Red Sox. And we're like, they bought the Red Sox for like $315 million. They could sell them for like $5 billion today. Yeah. Or something like that.
It's an investment.
But it's a crazy amount of money that you make. And then on top of all that, just today, like 3 hours ago, I saw that Forbes reported that the revenue in Major League Baseball was the highest ever for 2022. So like this, it just, I think it's really getting at the core of what we talk about all the time, where we're like, don't support the owners, support the players and everything. And I'm like, I wanted to like Steve Cohen for what he did, because again, I think that idealism of like spending money to make your team better and to, want to have fun in baseball is needed. But the fact that he stepped back and this all unfolded in the way that it did, it's just like another baseball as we know it. Baseball didn't change. Baseball would have changed if Correa ended up with the Mets, because they would have had like a 40% higher payroll than like the next highest team or something like that. Like that would have fundamentally changed how baseball needs to operate in the future. And like now I'm like, all right, I think we're pretty much still in the same spot. Like we have the high spenders, but those bottom feeders like the Orioles and the Guardians, they're not going to spend any money. Like they don't care. They're just going to pocket it all.
So, Matt, can I step in?
Yep.
So I have a couple thoughts / questions, because you guys might have like read in more detail than me and know more. So, but first thing is, we know how I feel about billionaires. That is ground that has been well trodden. What is it, Matt? Trod or trodden?
I don't know.
Okay.
Trod?
One of those. We know how I feel about billionaires. And Steve Cohen not only is a billionaire, but he has been like, wasn't he like expelled from Wall Street for like some sort of illegal bullshit or something? I don't know. He's had like actual troubles with the law.
Yeah.
So he's like corrupt even among billionaires, which is saying something.
He's hedge fund.
Yeah.
He got suspended.
Right.
Gray matter, right? Or something like that, or oh no, I'm just making that up.
So that is the caveat of like, clearly in terms of morals and principles, he's what I would consider a reprehensible person. However, the world we live in, these people exist. It is what it is. And if anybody is going to be an owner of a baseball team, having somebody like him as an owner of a baseball team still strikes me as being pretty cool. Now, what was interesting is when the Correa deal with the Mets was first coming down, and it hadn't even been confirmed yet, but Cohen talked to reporters, and he was quoted as saying, like, I think this really helps the club. I think we're going to do well. I hope we're going to do well. I hope the fans come. Like, I was like, man, can you imagine? Like, he sounded giddy, like in the quote. And like, can you imagine an owner talking about their team like that? He's like, oh, I think it's going to make us better. I hope the fans come. Like, that's super cool. I was really into that, despite, what I would think of him overall as a person. So what I'm wondering is, clearly it's like pretty well established. He is like a real super fan, and he is willing to spend whatever. So what I'm wondering is, when this first came down from the Giants, I think maybe a lot of us diehard baseball people were kind of looking at it with some skepticism. We were like, I wonder what happened there. That's really weird. Like, Correa's been fine. And then the Mets swooped in right away, and I was like, maybe the Giants were being crazy, right? But then the Mets pulled the same thing. And so what I'm wondering is, and I don't know if we have all the details yet, but maybe for two franchises to do this with a franchise altering player, a really truly high impact player, speaks volumes to me. It says to me that like there must be something like really off with the physical. There must be something that really scares them in terms of future stuff, because we know he's played a good amount of games the last couple of years. He's been fine, but there must be something that's really scary and enough to like scare Cohen off, or enough that like his front office was able to convince him. So I'm wondering, and this is maybe where you guys can help me out. Have we gotten more details on the physical? Like, I'm really curious what it seems to me it's got to be something that they're
it's a leg injury from 2014 when he was in high A still, I think.
Okay.
Minor leagues, top prospect for the Astros at that point. And apparently he re-aggravated it this past season slightly, but that's where like none of this stuff popped up last year, obviously, with the physical. And I guess that's where the holdup is, but none of us know the extent of the details and all that type of stuff. But
so as I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, and this was first going on, and the deal was called into question with the Mets last week, the one thing that popped up, and I just found the data among his peers. So this data slice lists his peers is Trey Turner, Dansby Swanson, Sander Bogarts, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Francisco Lindor, and Javi Baez. He has by far the largest sprint speed tail off in his 26, 27, 25, 26, 27 age years compared to when he started in the majors, dropping 5%.
So you mean he's slow, like overall he's slower, or like
Yes.
longer distance he gets slower?
No, he's slower. His top sprint speed is tailing off at a 4x rate, 2 to 4x rate of people considered his peers in the league, and closer to 4x across the board if you look at people who are, 20 when in their 20 season 27 year.
Yeah.
And I think he almost never steals now. And he tried. So the last in the last 6 seasons, he's got 6 stolen bases and 0 in the last 3 seasons. He tried and was caught once last year, and that's when he went on the IL for an ankle injury.
I think that's when he aggravated it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing the clip.
The one time he tried to steal in the last 3 years, he went on the IL.
Yeah.
This is fascinating and pretty damning, actually.
So I think the video I was watching was just talking about the teams must have some next level of analytics.
Yeah.
That's causing red flags, out there, that's throwing up some big red flags.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't have, because who else used to be faster and tailed off pretty quickly once he got to age 30? Miggy. Right. So and he's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And I think he would still occasionally swipe a bag or two, but
he's a big dude now.
But what I wanted to see is his hard hit percentage. So his hard hit percentage was 44.7 last year, and his career average is 44.4. So he's right there. He's right in terms of barreling the ball, and his exit velocity is slightly, it was 89.9 and his career average is 90.2. So again, he's pretty much there in terms of average exit velocity. So that could be where the Twins are going to say, well, fine, whatever, we'll move you to third eventually and just hit taters.
Yeah. Well, and that's like what I guess that's like where my hang up is with all this. He was going to move to third anyway.
Yeah.
For the Mets. And if the Twins were able to restructure this deal, and like granted, he has a little bit more familiarity with them because he played with them last season. But if the Twins were able to restructure a deal like this, why couldn't Cohen and the Mets make it happen? Because
I was wondering,
again, Matt, to your point, yes, I totally understand the long-term ramification. If like Correa gets severely hurt and never plays again, and that's dead money, essentially.
He could Prince Fielder.
Yeah, but again, like nobody predicted that.
No. But I'm saying teams probably had something like that in the back of their mind.
Yeah, but the two thoughts that I have that I can't get over are the restructuring of the deal. Why didn't that get done? And then the other one is like strip away the deal and the money or whatever, and just say Carlos Correa plays amazing this upcoming season and gets the Amazons to the World Series and puts them, quote unquote, over the top, like Steve Cohen said. Isn't that just worth it at the end of the day to get that championship?
Well, but so to counterpoint that, and like it was I think the channel was I Talk Sports. Then it was a video posted yesterday said that Correa was unwilling to renegotiate clauses with the Mets. He wanted the contract that he initially agreed to.
Okay.
And this
is on Correa too. Then
he was quoted today as saying, "I've learned that doctors disagree." So to
Who's his
me,
doctor? Scott Boris?
probably. To me, I don't like the way I can envision this all happening is the Mets thinking, who the fuck is going to touch you? We hold all the cards. You
Right.
take these clauses, or else, good luck finding a contract anywhere near what we want to pay you.
Mm-hmm.
And the best he could do was Twins.
Yeah.
So I think, to me, that's what, and again, to me, good for the Twins, because the way they structured it seems reasonable to me.
Yeah.
Like, he still gets 6 years, 200, which is a higher. If it was just stuck at that, it was a really high AAV, right? That's going to be 33 million a year. And then he gets that security at the back end of his contract if they can invest and have the option. So I'd say kudos to the Twins for making it work and figuring out something that worked. But I don't think Correa really wanted to take 80 million less than he was originally going to get, or 45 million less than what the Mets were going to offer.
Yeah.
It is good that the Twins got it done. I think that was the other thing I was thinking is I think it would have been cooler for baseball if he was on the Mets. I think it's good for baseball when the Mets are like competitive and have like superstars and stuff like that. I think it's cool if both New York teams are really getting after it, as opposed to one being a laughing stock or whatever, right? But the fact that the Twins did make it happen and like shelled out, 6 years, 200 million, that's not a small deal, right? It's not it looks small compared to these other massive, super long-term, 10, 11, 12-year deals we've been seeing. But 6 years, 200 million is a lot. And the fact that a quote unquote small market team like the Twins went out and did it, I think that looks good. I don't know what it's going to do for them necessarily. It'll be interesting to see over the next few years. But I was happy to see that happen.
And Colin, to your point, you're right. Remember when the Cubs traded for Chapman?
Yeah.
A lot of people lost their shit because they gave up so much to get Chapman. But they got the ring. Theo got them the ring.
Yep.
They would do it every time, I think.
So exactly.
Every single time.
They weren't sacrificing 10 years to get that ring. But
well, in some ways they were by getting rid of Glaber.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But they weren't sacrificing $315 million to get that ring. But you're right. If Correa is an all-star for the next 3 years and gets them to the World Series, and one of those years or two of those years, and they win at one, then the Mets, anyone who's a Mets fan is going to say, yep, it's worth it. Like, if he could compound fracture his ankle and never play again, fuck it, Bobby Bonilla him until he's dead. And yep, okay, we got our ring. Cool.
Yeah. But if to your point, Matt, if for whatever reason he wasn't willing to negotiate with the Mets, I mean, that's disappointing on his end.
Yeah.
Because he probably could have gotten a very similar deal and probably could have gotten even more money from the Mets if he had been willing,
And it's who knows what actually happened, right? This is all secondhand reports. There was another report saying that the Mets were asking the Players Association and the Major League Baseball for the ability to include unusual and non-standard clauses in their contract. So they could have whipped up something crazy too. They could have whipped up some wackadoo bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And said like, hey, who else? Go fine. Go ahead and find someone else who's going to sign you. And he did.
Yeah. What'll be really interesting is 3 years from now, let's say Correa's killing it. I mean, I don't see the Twins. I don't understand what the fuck the Twins are doing. Like I know that division is awful, but I just don't see them being super competitive. But let's say in a scenario where Correa is awesome, the Twins are terrible, the Mets still can't get over the top, Lindor kind of fades off. Like, are they trying to trade for Carlos Correa in 3 years?
The Twins are favored right now in that division, but the Indians are going to take Tito Francona and the Indians basically take like the table scraps that a busboy scrapes off the plate and like makes it look like a very appetizing meal. Like, Yeah. Remember when we were talking about the war of their infield last year? Like, holy shit! Like, where did these guys come from?
That Jimenez guy is really good. One of the
Yeah,
most
I mean-
underrated players in the league last year.
Remember we did a side-by-side comparison. Not now it wasn't including DJ, but we did Rizzo, Glaber, IKF, and Donaldson versus
The Guardians infield.
Jimenez,
Ramirez, and then whoever the other two were.
Naylor, and the other guy.
Yeah.
And it was like a 2-1 WAR difference. Like, holy shit.
Yeah. Well, the funniest thing I think I saw out of all of this was some Yankee, fan account was like, well, I guess this takes the Twins out of the IKF running.
Shit. You're right. I didn't think of that.
I did think that was hilarious. Well, I have a topic that we could top everything off with, baseball topic. But are there other hot stove things you guys want to talk about, or anything else you want to talk about before we go to that?
Who signs Trevor Bauer?
Oh yeah, that's an interesting one.
That's a good
Also,
one.
what is the current status on all the legal stuff? Because as far as I know, he and his lawyer have been maintaining innocence this whole entire time. And he had texts that he was saying proved it and blah 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 blah. And
the DA did not open a case or press charges. They investigated and nothing happened.
Yeah.
And it's done now. That's it.
It's done.
Yep.
The MLB said that he
people are
still
just scared to
violated the
touch
code
him.
of conduct, which allows them, based on their investigation, it doesn't have to be criminal for them to do something, which there
They
was a couple
suspended him
cases
for-
already.
right.
But the arbitrator said, well, you gave him a penalty that was like 4 times as long as anyone else, and he wasn't convicted of anything.
Yeah.
So that's actually why some people are predicting he won't get signed anywhere, is because he hasn't come out and said, I'm sorry yet. He's been aggressively defending himself versus other players.
I don't buy that for 1 minute.
I'm sorry. I'm my fault. I'm going away. I'll be better.
He's a white guy in America.
Well, right, there's that, but also there are a lot of credibly accused domestic assaulters in Major League Baseball. And by the way, as Yankee fans, we have 2 of them, or had 2 of them, and cannot be throwing stones as far as this goes. And in fact, we did.
Is Chappie no longer on the team?
I think his contract is up, right?
Yeah,
I think he's gone.
You're right. Yeah.
So, but that's the biggest one, and I got to say, we look like one of the worst in the industry for the way we handled the whole Chapman thing, right? I mean, all that domestic abuse shit came out, his value was super low, and that was when we swooped in, right? What did we do? We traded him and then re-signed him or whatever at a cheaper deal.
We traded for him when his value
we got him from the Reds for next to nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we sold high to the Cubs and then signed him back.
That's what it was. Yeah, right. Now, I am not disparaging Brian Cashman's business acumen as far as that goes, but just saying, you guys know how I feel about this. I mean, obviously, domestic assault is different than something like steroids, right? But people in baseball, and I think in sports in general, they love to get on their moral high horse, and they love to pretend that everything is black and white, and it's just not. There's just a lot of nuance here. Now, Bauer, there is a really strong narrative around him right now that he's just a fucking douchebag, regardless of the degree of his guilt or innocence or whatever. And that's one thing, right? But I'm just saying that every team, whether we know it or not, has done shit that we would all consider morally dubious at best and really shitty at worst. So I don't know. If somebody signs Bauer, I'm already picturing the outcry, right? But I don't know. I mean, it just seems a little hypocritical to me. If granted, I guess we have to take the racial thing into account, right? If the DA chose not to press charges against him, he's a white guy, how much did that have to do with it? But also Domingo Germán and Aroldis Chapman both. And you guys maybe remember more details, but I believe those accusations were credible and are even relatively confirmed. And those guys never got suspended for a season or more, and they're just right back in baseball, just doing their thing. And granted, neither of them are that good anymore. Yeah, but it wasn't like a season or more.
82 games.
Bauer got the longest.
Yeah, which is what I mean.
Yeah.
Now in the Bauer stuff, I don't know. The Bauer stuff is icky. I don't know if we need to get into that, right? But like, from what I can remember when it first happened, there were a lot of details to that case that make it a little bit murky, and people are, I think, refusing to discuss those details because the world that we live in right now, we don't do that. We just it's either you're on your high horse about how wrong it is, or you're on your high horse about how defiant you're going to be, and how it's a witch hunt or whatever, right? And I just don't think that this situation, unless we get more information that proves it one way or the other, I don't think it's that kind of situation. And it bothers me that I don't know. I get the sense that there's just this like huge giant assumption. I don't know. He might be a piece of shit and he might be totally guilty, right? But it might not be quite that, and I don't know. I think that shit matters, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's going through waiver claims as we speak. And if nobody claims him, this is Wednesday night, 9:36 Eastern. If nobody claims him by Friday, he's an unrestricted free agent. And I don't doubt for a second that the team's going to sign him, because throw out all the morals. He only requires league minimum for everyone else. The Dodgers are on the hook for the rest of the money. So
Astros are going to sign him.
It would not surprise me at all.
Lest we forget Brandon Taubman, Astros GM, after they traded for Osuna from the Blue Jays, who was accused of who was suspended, and his
was domestic abuse too, I think.
Yeah. And
Bowers is different, I think, from like Herman and Chapman, and in the sense that Bowers it was sexual abuse, whereas like Herman was seen by, I think, Yankee players hitting his wife, which is what Chapman did too. The Ray Rice thing.
But did Chapman hit his wife? I thought
I'm pretty sure
he garage and fired an AK-47 into the wall.
I remember reading about him firing a gun. I can't remember if there was hitting.
That sounds familiar now that you're saying that.
Yeah. But yeah, don't forget Taubman screaming at female reporters in the locker room.
Yep.
Or in the clubhouse. Thank God we got Osuna. I'm so fucking glad we got Osuna. Yep. Multiple times. Fucking piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. And he'll probably thrive with the Astros because they got some kind of voodoo with their pitching, and he's already a pretty good pitcher, or was a pretty good pitcher. So could happen. I just hope it's not the Yankees. I don't want to have to deal with that. Yeah. I think they got a pretty good staff as it is. Anyway. All right. You guys want to end this with some fun?
Yeah, let's go ahead with some fun.
All right. So cousin Greg sent this to me. And I will read it off. MLB.com did the next 10 World Series predictions. We're going to go through year by year. And we're going to say yay or nay. Do we agree? And if we agree, then we agree. If we don't, you can pick who you think is going to win the championship. Sound fun? Impossible?
Impossible, but entertaining, sure.
All right. So first season, this coming season, 2023, the Los Angeles Dodgers over the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't know necessarily that we need to pick both teams, but
that'd be take too long, too much.
Yeah.
Dodgers
in 2023.
Seems realistic. I don't know that it'd be my number one choice. I don't know that I'd pick the Blue Jays out of the AL. I got burnt by the Blue Jays last year. I was all on the bandwagon.
That movie, baby.
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe they do it this year. I don't fucking know. But it seems like maybe their pitching isn't quite strong enough. Dodgers seem like an easy, safe answer for the next few years, right? So I don't know who I would necessarily choose above them. Maybe Mets and Braves if I'm thinking just NL.
I was gonna go with the Dodgers in 2024 because they're gonna give Shohei a $50 million a year contract.
If that happens, oh my God, yeah.
But I don't know. Next year, I would say I would go with the Padres.
I like that.
I like that.
They get Tatis back from his roids. They got Soto. They
Who
got
hopefully figures out how to hit again.
Manny Machacha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the Padres pitching is objectively better than the Dodgers right now.
And they got Musgrove and Yu Darvish and
Blake Snell.
Blake Snell. Yeah, I was going to say that weird looking guy from the Rays.
Yeah. He is kind of weird looking.
He's got to remember how to pitch, but he will.
Yeah, I mean, out in the National League, I would think the Mets, the Braves, and the Padres probably all have a better chance today to make the World Series than the Dodgers do. Who would I pick to win? I'm gonna get it out of the way. I'm just gonna pick the Yankees this year.
Get it out of the way. Yeah, we don't even have to bother in March.
All right. So Matt got the Padres. I got the Yankees. Who'd you get, Ethan?
Let's say for the whole thing, for the whole shebang.
Yep.
AL or NL.
Yep. I mean, those are the only two leagues.
Well, because we were focusing on NL, right? Because we all dismissed the Blue Jays. This is a good question. I kind of want to pick like a sleeper.
This is probably the hardest one because this is the most realistic to say, like, all right, we kind of know what to expect this upcoming season.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if there's a team that catches lightning in a bottle like the Phillies did this year, but they actually finish it off at the end. And I'm wondering if that team could be someone like the Mariners, for
I was
instance.
going to say the Mariners, yeah.
So
And
I'll go
Mariners
there.
got some pitching.
I think it's unlikely, but I'll go Mariners just for fun.
Okay. All right. 2024, MLB.com has the Mets over the Orioles.
Eh,
The Orioles have like the two top prospects in the game in terms of top pitcher and top hitter. They already got Adley Rutschman up there, who's like really good but underrated. Who knows? Maybe we actually see some good Orioles teams. Just saying.
I don't know.
See, Mets is interesting because I feel like Mets are more realistic this year because I feel like every year in the future, as good as Verlander and Scherzer are,
Yeah.
they can't. They're gonna start to decline at some point,
Yeah.
right? So I feel like we're gonna get our best Verlander and Scherzer sooner rather than later, and so it seems to me that this year would be a better chance than 24. But
well, remember, they only have a 2 and a 3 year contract.
yeah,
So 2024 could be it.
could be it. But it also could be the year that one or both of them finally has a real decline.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Rangers Dodgers. And
Wow.
the DeGrom, Semien,
Seager
Yeah.
experiment finally pays off.
That's a good one.
That'd be cool.
That's a good one. I'm going to agree with MLB.com. Back-to-back years for New York. Yankees 2023, Mets 2024.
I'm gonna say Braves. I think the Braves are gonna be really scary for the rest of the decade. Because you're not buying. You're not buying it.
I'm not buying the. I mean, I think they're going to be okay. They're going to be good, but I just don't see all those deals working out.
They got to get pitching too.
They got to get pitching, but I don't know if you look at those contracts. Though I know we've talked about this a little bit, and you look at the deals. Like Alex Anthopoulos is like a fucking wizard. I don't know how he has managed to do this, but he has locked up like everyone, and they're all like in their younger mid-20s for the most part. They're all like really good. Basically, like his entire position player, like the whole field, pretty much. He has locked up like a starter that's like really good. And granted, yeah, they need to shore up pitching and whatever. But I was reading about him the other day, and I don't know. He seems pretty legit. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm just like super impressed. I mean, Ronald Acuna, he got Acuna to sign for like $200 million over like 8 years or something.
Yeah.
When he was coming off of, I think, like his amazing rookie year or something. I don't know. I know he's been injured and shit, and we don't know what'll happen to him. But if he lives up to his talent, even 80%, like that deal will be an insane steal for the team, you know. So I don't know, just pretty interesting. But
Yeah.
I'll say Braves. Who knows?
Okay. So the next season, 2025, the only way I can actually see this happening is if Shohei signs with this team, because otherwise I think they're going to be a dumpster fire. But they have the Giants over the Yankees in the World Series.
How are they expecting the Giants to win the World Series? The Giants are fucking old, and I don't think they have any of like the really top prospects.
Yeah, I think they're going to be bad for a while.
Yeah, but I mean, they won. Remember how many games they won last year?
In
Oh, that was 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, I guess it's 2 years ago.
Yeah,
like,
but clear. I don't know.
Nowhere.
Seems like that was a fluke though, because didn't they have basically the same roster this year, and they were pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I mean, one of those years was the fluke. Maybe the bad year was the fluke. Maybe they're going to be really good again next year, but it seems unlikely. I mean, they're all.
I think 2021. I think 2021's been their only good season since their last World Series.
Yeah,
which was 2014.
14,
right?
yeah, 10, 12, and 14.
12,
yeah, that's a really strange pick by MLB.com. I agree with you. Only the Shohei signing would do it, but even that I don't think is enough. Even if they get Shohei, like the Angels have Shohei and Mike Trout, like the two best baseball players post Barry Bonds that we will probably ever see. And they have been shit. So, like, just signing Shohei, just on his own, like. It's cool, but that's far from a guarantee of any sort of relevance, let alone winning the title.
Yeah.
Do people call him Shotani? Because
I think Showtime. I thought.
I know, but
oh,
you could just, instead of saying Shohei Ohtani, just call him Shotani.
It is good.
It works.
Yeah. That's why we have you, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, all right. You never know when inspiration is going to strike. I'm going to go with the Yankees, and just because I don't know. I feel like anything after like 3 or 4 years is just like bullshit. So
yeah. Which is why I'm gonna pull an audible here.
I was gonna curtail it at 5.
Well, actually, what Ethan said got me interested. I think there's a couple things that we can try to make predictions on. The first is, do we think that the Angels will ever win a World Series with Ohtani and Trout on the team?
No. And how depressing is that? We have to finish this episode, so we can't get into that. But I could go on like a 10-minute really sad rant about how depressing that is. That we are wasting the prime of these two players. That the Angels have fucked this up so bad.
And like 2 years ago, didn't they only draft pitchers?
Is that right?
Right. That was like a news thing. I thought 2 years ago they only drafted pitchers. Where is their pitching?
Yeah, because a lot of times, if you're smart with that, you can get usually the best pitchers, like in college, for instance, like Steven Strasburg types, are usually like really close to the big leagues. You know, a lot they can be like a year away.
Trout pitch? Have they tried that?
Maybe that's the next thing that Trout needs to conquer. Maybe that's his off-season project.
He'll make his back better.
Yeah.
He can throw submarine. He's probably really good at that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have to happen this year because I just don't see Ohtani coming back, and I just don't see it happening.
Unless he just loves being part of that organization. I mean, we don't have necessarily all the insider scoops. Maybe even though they're mediocre, maybe he loves it. But didn't he say something this season that was sort of
cryptic?
A little sassy, right? Yeah. So no, seems like he'll probably leave. Yeah.
And this could be internet hopefulness, but I saw 2 different YouTube videos about Trout secretly trying to lay the groundwork to get out of there.
Interesting.
Really?
Now what I was wondering though,
what YouTube videos are you watching?
One of the guys was predicting that Trout would get traded to the New York Yankees, and I was like, no.
I would have.
Is he going to play left field for us?
Ago. Yeah.
They said Yankees or Phillies. So,
well, being a Philly guy, I could see that happening. But I mean, at this point, he's hitting the wrong side of 30 now, isn't he? Now he's Mike Trout, so I don't want to bet against him. But I would be less excited if the Yankees went out and somehow got him now than I was even 2 years ago.
Who in baseball history, besides Barry Bonds, we'll talk position players. We'll stick with that. This is a little off topic, but who in baseball history produced like they did their first 10 years, their back 10 years. Not even Hank Aaron did. I mean, Hank Aaron was like the most consistent of them all, but Pujols broke down, A-Rod broke down, Mantle broke down, DiMaggio
Willie.
didn't even make it. Maybe Ted Williams. That was a totally
Juan
different game.
Franco.
I think yeah, I think Willie and Hank are probably the Willie as in Willie Mays are probably they're the two best candidates that come to the top of my head. I'm gonna pull up Willie real quick.
Yeah.
If my phone will work here.
I mean,
But
it's
that's
just
'cause-
it's not, it wouldn't be surprising to me, I guess, is the point I'm making, if Trout's not the best player in baseball anymore. And I think that's okay.
yeah, of course.
I hope he doesn't have a fall off like Pujols did. That would be really sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Miggy was, until fairly recently, like still pretty dominant.
Excuse me, Julio Franco.
Julio, that's right.
Yes.
Willie was pretty close as far as you can go, I think, without steroids. His power dropped a lot when he hit his mid 30s, when he hit 52 homers when he was 34. And then he hit 37 when he was 35.
Candlestick?
Yeah. Or was it that was in 1965. Was that Candlestick?
Jesus.
Yeah. But then the homers dropped quite a bit after that. He never got more than 40 again. But like looking at his overall numbers, I mean, his OPS and his OPS plus were still really good. Like he was still a good overall offensive player, and I'm sure his defense was not quite as otherworldly because I'm sure he slowed down. But I think Willie is probably as good of a choice as we can find.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That's an interesting question. Yeah.
So we all agree no to Trouty and Ohtani winning one together. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's super sad.
Super sad.
The Mariners are the only franchise in Major League Baseball who have never appeared in a World Series. Do we think they make it to a World Series in the next 10 seasons? And if you want to expand on it, do you think they win a World Series in the next 10 seasons?
I don't know if they win one. I think they make it.
It's sorry, no. Can you?
I would
I'm
love
hopeful.
to know why.
I mean, right? Because they've had a promising future with some hot youngsters before. Think of when King Felix was coming up, and
Those teams were terrible.
Yeah. But wasn't he on the team when A-Rod was still on the team, or am I too far apart? I'm too far apart.
Too far apart.
Way too far.
Well, but to your point though, Matt, like, well, it's interesting. So I'm thinking about it, and I was thinking about maybe saying yes, because like Julio Rodriguez, for instance, is like super exciting. But this isn't the first time that the Mariners have had a very good young player. They also had somebody named Ken Griffey Jr. in the 90s. Then they had somebody named Alex Rodriguez in the late 90s. Then they had somebody named Ichiro in the early 2000s. And then, Matt, to your point, they had somebody named Felix Hernandez in the later 2000s. And frankly,
they also had Randy Johnson. And
they also had Randy Johnson, Edgar Martinez. And all of those people were better than Julio Rodriguez. So I wanted to say yes because I want to feel hopeful, and I think it would be cool for baseball. But like, I don't know. I mean, they didn't win a pennant with any of those guys. So it's like, unless ownership decides to get really ambitious and spend some money and really get out there and make some big deals,
which I think they have to a certain extent.
Right. They signed Robbie Ray, right? I mean, that was a pretty,
and they've made some deals and stuff. Like they're definitely competitive.
Yeah, which is cool. But God, I mean, fuck, if you can't do it in the 90s with Griffey and Edgar and A-Rod, weren't they all on the team together for a few years?
A lot of years.
Yeah.
Like a handful of years.
Yeah, holy shit.
And you had Buhner. Buhner was
and he had some pop. Yeah,
wasn't
that
John
guy
Olerud on the team then too.
He was, at least for a time. I don't remember if he overlapped.
He might have been on the 01 team.
Wasn't Tino there also?
Tino was until
like 94, 95. Yeah.
Yep.
So he wouldn't have overlapped with A-Rod, but he would have overlapped with Edgar.
A-Rod wasn't a full-time player yet, but he was up.
Yeah, but I mean, A-Rod's rookie season, his first full year was 96, right? And Tino was us in 96, right?
Yep.
Got traded. Donnie's replacement.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean the only for me the only way you say yes is if you believe in do factor. But
yeah,
otherwise you say no because the only years they have ever made the playoffs were this season and then those handful of years in the mid 90s in 2001. They went between 2001 when they won the most games
ever.
in Major League Baseball history in the regular season until this past season, 21
Yeah,
seasons without making the playoffs.
yeah,
And
pretty
then they went
sad.
to the first, I think it was like the first 21 seasons of their existence before they made the playoffs. And then they had like, a 5 out of 8 year stretch, 5 years out of 8 that they made the playoffs, like when we were kids.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they've been a disgraceful organization.
You know what's crazy to think about, and this is a different rabbit hole that we shouldn't go down right now, but just a quick observation. When we think about the 90s a lot, we all marvel at the Yankee dynasty. It really is amazing. And to me, it's even more amazing when you look at like the Braves, for instance. The Braves were unbelievably stacked and only won one. And I think if we were to do like a roster to roster comparison, I bet the Braves would be like, especially in terms of WAR and stuff like that, probably would trounce the Yankees most of those years. But then in addition to the Braves, we talk about the Indians a lot, right? I think the Indians, it's pretty well known.
Yep.
Those years with like Manny Ramirez and Jim Tomei and Kenny Lofton and Roberto Alomar, all of those guys, right? They scored 1,000 runs one year, like they were ridiculous. They never won one, right? They only won one pennant. And then talking about the Mariners, like I feel like the Indians get maybe more
2
attention,
pennants.
and I don't know, two pennants. Oh yeah, 95 and 97.
Yeah.
Is that right? So I feel like for whatever reason, maybe the Indians get mentioned more. But now this Mariners conversation is reminding me, like they fucking had Griffey and A-Rod and Edgar, like
And Randy Johnson.
and Randy Johnson, like all at the same time.
Yeah.
And they didn't even win a pennant.
And
But the
Jamie
Yankees
Moyer.
and Jamie Moore, but the Yankees managed to do what they did, despite having a substantially weaker roster in certain senses. So pretty incredible.
Yeah, but remember though, their 2001 season didn't have any of those guys.
They had Ichiro.
And Ichiro,
Yeah,
who led
true.
the team
And
in
all
WAR
the
that
other
year,
guys were
really quick,
gone.
ready?
Haggard.
And who led the team in WAR that year?
Was it not Ichiro?
No,
Wow.
Brett Boone.
Oh, that was the crazy Brett Boone year.
42 homers or
Like
whatever.
37 homers, 141 ribbies, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
And
so
he hit like 330 or something.
So the
Yeah.
top 12 players in terms of WAR: Brett Boone, Ichiro Suzuki, Mike Cameron, John Olerud, 4th, Edgar Martinez, 5th, Freddie Garcia, Mark McLemore,
So
David
crazy.
Bell, Jamie
And that was the
Moyer,
year they won 116.
Carlos Guillen, Stan Javier, and Aaron Seeley.
Fucking crazy.
Freddie was awesome.
Freddie was there.
He was really good there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But you know what? That I guess that's a really good point. These teams that are like stacked with the superstars have not necessarily been that successful, whereas the teams that are like not necessarily stacked with the superstars but are just like consistent good players have kind of done better. I mean, that was the Yankees in that time period, and the Mariners the year they won 116, the Giants a couple of years ago, like we were talking about. So that's kind of an interesting point. I guess the Dodgers and the Astros in the last few years have done a good job of making the super team thing work.
Yeah.
But before that, how often did the super team thing work? If we go and we look at it, I don't know.
I think it worked a little more than you're giving
You think?
credit to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm positive the Yankees bought World Series. I'm positive the Red Sox bought World Series.
I mean, 09 for the Yankees, but I don't know that I would count any of the dynasty years.
I mean, they were still outspending teams in those dynasty years.
But I mean, who would you qualify as a legitimate superstar in those years? Jeter.
Rivera.
I'm never going to call a closer a legitimate superstar.
Bernie Williams.
Not a superstar. Bernie was my favorite. Not a superstar.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I think about that all the time. The super team, I guess, concept in baseball as compared to
like basketball or whatever.
Basketball specifically, but even to a certain extent, football. And the Yankee dynasty, those core players, it's a really interesting career arc because they never they never get to replicate the teams that they were on early in their career when they won all those World Series in the dynasties. But like, Pettit obviously leaves and then comes back, but Posada, Jeter, Rivera, they're all there for 20 years or whatever. And it's like they don't necessarily change. They're still hungry and working hard and want to win a World Series every single year. But to your point, Ethan, then they, Steinbrenner goes crazy and starts bringing in all these stars, and it's like it doesn't really mesh well, even though they win a lot of games and it sells tickets and people are in the stands, but it's like it just doesn't do it at the end of the day. And it's like, does that work? That's like my whole book, right? Is like, does that work sustainable? Is that sustainable?
Okay, sorry. I know we're going off on like a zillion tangents, but fuck the 97 and 98 Indians, and fuck the AL Central, because they won the Central in 97 with 86 wins, and they won the Central in 98 with 89 wins. So
that's it.
Yeah.
Even with that stacked roster, at least the stacked offense. I don't remember.
Yeah, they
what
never had pitching.
They had like Charles Nagy, who was, I think, pretty good.
Garrett Wright was
Wright,
really
Oral Hershiser, Charles Nagy. Well, and the shame is Jose Mesa had a great season in 97, but he has a cursed name in Cleveland because of the World
Game
Series.
7.
Right. Yeah. Man, I can't believe they only won that many games when they had like Manny and Tomei and Lofton and Alomar, like both Alomars, I think, right? Like in their primes. I mean, those guys were so fucking good.
Yeah.
Wow. That's nuts.
And because it was the 99 team that, what you were saying earlier, Ethan, I think scored over 1,000.
Scored 1,000.
Yeah, now 99, that was a beastly team. That was a 97 win team.
Yeah. That was the team that I think they were up 2-1 against Boston in the DS that year. And then if you look it up, like game 5, it was in Cleveland and it was like 8-8 after like 3 innings. And then Pedro came in and just shut the door on the Indians. And then the Red Sox made the ALCS when the Yankees beat them, obviously. But
fucking Pedro.
Yeah. Pedro being Pedro.
Yep.
So good.
Yep. We kind of had an ADHD last 20 minutes here, but
we had a lot to catch up on.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that we're doing this next week. We're kind of week to week as things are right now, depending on Aria's sleep schedule and how that affects me mainly. But we'll try to be back next week.
Yep. And we can go further into some of these rabbit holes if we want. There's actually a couple interesting premises here that could be kind of fun to dig into.
We should do a whole episode entitled "Teammates of Jamie Moyer."
Yeah, and teammates of Julio Franco too.
Yeah,
maybe?
Julio Franco.
Yeah,
who won a batting title? I forget that.
Oh my God! Yeah, Jesus Christ! So
what year?
94 or 93, I think.
Okay. I was gonna say somewhere in there. I remember seeing that sometime. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that too when I was like 4 years old.
Yeah. 91.
I definitely remember that. I remember reading about it, dummy.
Yeah, I read it in the newspaper when I was having my breakfast.
Such a fucking idiot.
All right, boys, any shout outs before we go?
Don't think so.
No? All right. Well, it's been real, and I've been waiting all season to say this, but we are Rose Bowl champs.
Yeah, you're lucky I didn't have a burp to time right when that happened.